You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Thom Yorke, recorded in the studios of XFM last year for Exposure. And I'm very pleased to say that he is back with friends. Hello, Thom.
Hello, this is my friend Ed.
Hello. How are you all?
It's Thom Yorke and Ed O'Brien from Radiohead tonight, because In Rainbows is the new album which is out in a physical form this week, around the world pretty much, I think. Am I right? It's out in the UK and Europe, around the world, by now.
We have manifested ourselves in the physicality.
And we're going to give it the Exposure album playback treatment tonight, which means that you get to hear the whole thing, but with Thom and Ed talking us through it track by track, which we've already played the album, and on the day of release, on the 10th of October, when you could download it, we played the whole thing in the middle of the day. But for some reason, now that you've come in to talk to us about it, they want to put it on at night time. I don't know how that works.
Poor dear.
I know. Don't feel offended.
Was anybody listening then in the middle of the day, or they would turn off?
No, it had a great response. I listened, and there were some other people as well.
They listened too, did they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and then we all could have chatted in chat rooms around the world.
Wow.
No, it did. I mean, it went down really, really well, and it was really interesting to be able to do that, to be able to play the whole of a brand new album and just kind of let it out in the day, which was really, really cool. But obviously, the delivery of this album seems to be such a talking point. I thought we'd get that out of the way.
Let's get out
early.
of the way.
I mean, it seems to have had such a massive impact on various different aspects of industry and art. I mean, how do you feel about it now, a few months down the line?
It was, like you said, the excitement comes from the fact that you would actually hear it at the same time as everyone else, and that was something that we really loved, and the whole aspect of people saying what, speculating about what it means for the industry. I mean, all that stuff is really, it's not really our point. It's not our agenda. Our agenda was to get it out as quickly as possible, and we weren't in contract, so this seemed to be the obvious way to do it, really.
Yeah, and I mean, how quick was it? 2-3 weeks between finishing the album and actually getting people to hear it?
I think we were actually taking whatever the pre-order thing and asking people if they're interested in it on the net. While we were doing that, we were still actually mastering the record.
Right,
so it was a little bit tight in the end.
So it kind of gave you a deadline that you had to work to, and make sure you got that mastering done, which is good, because I get the impression that deadlines can be good for you.
They can be very good.
Yeah.
Every 4 years or so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a deadline.
I'm just thinking of the kind of, you started work on the album, then there'd be these messages saying, with no deadline to work to, it's kind of difficult to get going, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
But obviously, that was a very tight deadline, and I mean, mastering, do you get involved in that? Is that part of the process that you're involved in?
It's a really, really important part. Yeah, we had the record mastered about 3 or 4 proper times, and that each time that they would have been mastered about 3 times in each of those 4 times, so it makes a huge difference in terms of the overall sound. It's a bit like framing a picture, if you will. The frame, you can bring out certain elements of the picture itself and colours and stuff, and that's exactly what mastering does.
Or squeezing it through a shape.
And now, I don't know how to carry on from squeezing it into a shape.
Oh, it's good.
Need to change tack.
I think you should.
Now it's out physically, in a CD format, in a box and all that kind of stuff. Does it feel more real in any way? I mean, maybe in the old days, when you'd be able to walk into a record shop and see your record that you had made, and it must have been a big thrill from from Pablo Honey or something almost, to be able to go and see, yes, we exist, we have an album and all that kind of stuff. I mean, does that bear any level of importance now? Because obviously there were some people who wouldn't have been techno savvy or whatever, who wouldn't have been able to download it, and there was a kind of almost like a splinter group of naysayers who were saying, it's not fair, we're left out of the equation. But now obviously this week they're not.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was always the condition of us doing it in the first place. We probably were the naysayers in believing that the internet is not the universe. It has its limitations, and it was also very important for us that it physically did exist, and not just as the record box, which is like a sort of special, sort of another part of the experiment, really. It was important that that friends of ours who can't be bothered to go through the whole shenanigans on the net, yeah, they could get hold of it. I mean, it's important, the act of putting it, I mean, you know, there'll be vinyl of it as well, but I was going to say the act of putting a CD player, CD in the CD player is still kind of like an important thing. I mean, the trouble with like your MP3 players is you can just flick around a lot, you know, sound like an old fart, which of course is what I am. Now I'm going to shut up.
So the disc box, is that going to be available in the shops as well?
I don't know. We've made 100,000 and we've sold most of them. So I think some shops may pick them up, but it's mainly really the vinyl and the CD.
Yeah. So
and
those extra tracks on the second CD.
Yeah. Not sure what's going to happen with them yet.
Yeah. We don't know, do we?
I mean, it's cool that they're just there. I mean, they'll get passed around anyway. But we'll just see. We're not quite sure.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Well, I mean, let's get talking about the creation of this work in Rainbows. We're going to play the whole thing tonight. You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM. I've got Thom York and Ed O'Brien with me. My name is John Kennedy. And the creation of the work, I mean, did work actually start in 2005? I mean, was it that kind of drawn out? I mean, obviously we can't look at 2003 when the last album came out. Obviously there was a bit of a break.
There was a break, and it took a while to sort of gear up. I'd say we probably started properly last year, like October last year, in a derelict house in the middle of nowhere, as is our wont. So yes, I would say everything up until that was kind of leading to that, really.
Yeah, so that was kind of the preparatory,
the
foreplay.
When you take a year off, you have to realise that it's you lose so much inertia and momentum. Yeah, and you just need that. You know, you don't realise quite when you're going along how much you exist by it just rolling on. And when you stop dead, you know, for a year, it takes a long time to get it going. You know,
this is a curious combination of things that happen as well, because you know, we sort of got out of contract with a big label. We took a long break, and I think after about a year, most of us were sitting around going, "What exactly is it that we do?" What I distinctly remember playing in front of 60,000 people in America. Did I imagine that?
No,
I'm having some really wild dreams at the moment. Some odd flashbacks.
Yeah.
Do you get caught up in other things? I mean, obviously you did a solo album, Thom, but I mean, do you get caught up in DIY projects or anything like that, or doing up the house, or building, you know, an extension, or whatever it is that you do to make your life better?
Well, personally speaking, I mean, you know, having children and doing all of that for the first time, and really, you know, getting my hands dirty doing that, and quite literally
say that,
and that stuff, and doing that for a while. That's when, you know, when you're in the middle of that, when you're in the traffic jam, having gone, you know, and you got the shopping in the back, and you got a screaming child or whatever in the back, and you kind of think, what is it that I do? I remember there was the classic one. They were doing a thing on just before Glastonbury in 2005, and it was on another radio station, a national radio station, with one, and they were doing sort of a run-up, like they had a poll with you know, who would they like to see playing Glastonbury this year, and I was literally stuck in a traffic jam outside Oxford on the Ring Road on a Friday afternoon, and Glastonbury was about to kick off, and I was just what is it that I do? And you get those, you know, you get those moments, and I think they can be kind of quite important at times, you know, the juxtaposition of what you do with this kind of domestic existence.
If you want to know what the record's really about, that's what it's really about.
But I mean, it must be important. I mean, you're talking about inertia. It must be important to kind of have that period of inertia, or that recharges your batteries and makes you kind of want to do this again, to do what you really do again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. So you reckon, in earnest, the album proper started recording in October 2006 or so, like something like that, after you'd road tested some of the songs on the tour?
Yes, yes. It was annoying. You know, we couldn't get it together until sort of Nigel came and gave us a walloping kick up the arse, because we love that stuff, you know.
A bit of spanking.
Yeah.
Is he good at that kind of thing? Is he good? I mean, after all these years of knowing you, I mean, is he still able to say, look, just get your shit together, get going, do something?
Well, he tends to be a bit more polite than that.
Right.
He was really good, because we hadn't worked together for about 3 years, and obviously he worked on the Eraser, and he came in and he literally, the way he records, he holds the mirror up to what you do, and I don't remember in the first up until Christmas, not once did he ever say, listen, this is just not good enough. He knew it wasn't good enough, but he let us realise it wasn't good enough, and it was after that when we started really beginning of this year, and we started to notch it up a bit. He was a bit more critical, but he was amazing in that respect. He was very gentle at the beginning because he knew it was kind of quite fragile at first.
The weird thing is that it's too many traffic jams. Basically, we'd lost our confidence, even though we'd gone out on tour and stuff. It's easy in some ways to rattle the songs out in a situation like that, but once we got back into the studio, and we listened to sort of how it was rough and ready all over the shop, it was like, well, this ain't good enough, and it sort of really knocked us for six for ages. Yeah.
That's interesting, but you're able to pull yourselves up and face that and conquer that.
Could be worse, could be worse.
So this house in the middle of nowhere, is it Tottenham House, is that right? Yeah. Is it in Wiltshire?
It is.
Somebody mentioned Somerset. Did you
No,
ever go?
we did go to Somerset.
Oh, okay.
This place is in Wiltshire, and it's just outside, it's not Malmesbury, it's somewhere like, it's a little market town near where my granny lives, and I forget the name of it. But it's literally, apparently it's the last thing that's going on there before they do the big refurb. I think one of these big chains of, I think, is it Four Seasons or somebody?
Yeah, another golf course.
Yeah, they've got these beautiful Capability Brown landscape front gardens, which are gorgeous, and of course they're going to turn it into a golf course.
That's because that's what people want, isn't it?
Yeah.
What they want is their irrigated, blooming green holes.
18 holes in the middle of the English countryside.
For old duffs.
Yeah.
Wow. But I guess what they might be doing is they're going round the tees. Maybe you might get a hole named after you or something. Mm-hmm. The In Rainbows.
After that, probably not. Yeah.
They'll be discussing the qualities of the album. Of course, it was recorded here. Did it have an effect, do you think, on the recording? I mean, obviously on the recording physically, but do you think it affected the mood of the songs or anything like that? Were you literally camping out?
Yeah. Well,
kind of.
Yeah, we went under canvas. We were in caravans.
It was a carry-on camping type situation rather than,
It wasn't like a
Boy
scout
Scouts
camp.
and shit.
Yeah.
No.
Too cold for that. Didn't have an effect. Yes, it definitely had an effect. I mean, I think you just absorb. I mean, it had some very weird vibes. It had been a heroin recovering addict place. It had been a weird prep school, but it was like derelict in the strictest sense of the word, where there's holes in the floor, rain coming through the ceilings, half the window panes missing. It was a pretty weird place. I'm not sure whether it was haunted or not, but it had some pretty strange vibes. There was places you just basically didn't go.
Wow, bizarre. How did Nigel find this place?
He went looking. He went scouting in the summer, and whereas when we did this first time, we did it 10 years ago when we went to St Catherine's Court and did OK Computer. There are a lot of houses then. Now there aren't. They've all been bought up. So there are very few sort of run down, because we didn't want to go in there somewhere that was really smart, and it's just not the right kind of vibe. And I think apart from, I think there was one in Scotland possibly, this was sort of the only one available really.
Wow. And then how long did you spend there, and then how long did you return there, or did you? So this is kind of autumn 2006.
Yeah, we were there end of September, beginning of October, 3 weeks.
And you ended up getting the kind of basics of the album done there?
Interestingly, no. We got extremely random stuff done there. I mean, the joke was when we left that, well, it's okay, guys, because we've got the reverb sound for every track.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. Although, actually, looking back at it, that wasn't it, but it definitely felt like that at the time.
Yeah.
Reminds us of the story of Trevor Horn. You remember Trevor Horn, who produced...
Frankie Goes to Hollywood,
spending like a week in the studio that someone we knew was at, and coming out at the end of the week going, I've got it, and it was like, what? The kick drum, I've got the kick drum sound. It was a little bit like that.
So you had the reverb sound.
Yeah.
All you needed to do was the rest. Which you did
Small fry.
Well, we did the rest of it. We then went for 3 weeks down to Somerset and had
Went bonkers again.
Again, it didn't seem to. We didn't get a lot achieved, but we did things like Reckoner. The basics of Reckoner came out of that, so that was cool.
Well, no, we got a lot achieved, but that was the weird thing. So both these sessions, we got an awful lot achieved, but we didn't know we had at the time. It was, we did Videotape at that as well.
Yeah.
Body
Snatchers
we did Tottenham Hall. Nude, the vocals we did Tottenham Hall. All I Need, bits of. It was just this weird jigsaw, funnily enough, of stuff that we were deliberately using different versions of different things with spliced together as well. I was really into that. The sort of notion of not exactly sampling, but appropriating was the word I was using. So you get a vocal off one version and a drum thing off another, and very, very sort of artificial, but actually not. That was the idea, anyway.
And so after Wiltshire, after Somerset, you completed the album in your own studio?
Yeah, and in Covent Garden.
Right.
And I've just been using a studio there.
Yeah. And so...
We needed to feel glamorous.
And then, literally, I guess September would have been when you finished it. So, in a way, it took... No, September? I mean, if
this September...
September
Mastering.
2007. Yeah.
In a way, we took a big break over the summer, but yeah.
We basically got all the tracking done by the beginning of July. And then did a mastering beginning mid-July. Then took 6 weeks off. There was one other master done, and then I think there were 2 done back in September.
And that's the timeline, John.
Yeah, I like the timeline. I think it's almost like a year. I mean, I think it's brilliant, though. I mean, that took a year, in effect. But then you got it so everybody could listen to it almost instantly. I mean, you know, especially to what we're used to.
You know, that's also been one of the frustrations about what we do, is that you finish something and of course, you know, you're like kids, you want it to be heard immediately, you're excited about it, and you have to wait. There's always this traditional way of waiting at least 3 months. You know, Supergrass have finished their record. It's not going to be out until March. You know, they finished it quite a while ago. And that's quite demoralising. You know, if you're going to treat musicians as musicians want to keep on moving, they keep on evolving. If you're going to say, okay, this piece that you've just recorded, isn't going to come out for 6 months, and you have to wait until there's a slot in the marketplace that's right, then it's just, you know, it's really demoralising. So it's been incredibly liberating doing it this way.
So it's kept you buoyant?
Yeah.
You're not demoralised. You're ready, up and excited.
Yeah.
The future's looking good. And we will discuss more as we hear the whole of the album on the way. The first track from In Rainbows, plus more from Thom and Ed. Do not go away. You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Radiohead 15 Step, the opening track to the brand new album In Rainbows. I know you've heard it for the last few months, but it's actually physically available this week in the shops.
It physically exists.
It physically exists. It's probably in your hand as you're listening to the radio, maybe. But I have Thom and Ed here who are going to talk us through the whole of the album. 15 Step, where does this figure in that timeline that we were just discussing in such great detail? Is it worth trying?
Yeah, no, it was kind of a cool one because I think for a lot of people it was a sort of breakthrough song for us because it came together very fast. I mean, what you just heard is basically one take with almost nothing changed at all. So it evolved in a really interesting way as well, because it was originally extremely electronic and very much sort of stripped and noisy, and then we sort of wanted to work out a way of doing it live, and out of that came the one that you heard, and it sort of just, you know, everything sort of it turned into something. We agonised over like whether the raw squelchy electronic one was good or whether this one was good, and it was actually blindingly obvious that what we ended up with was miles better. And it was very much in the sort of vein of when we finished Kid A and stuff, like say Videotape, which was you know, it has a very specific sort of sound on the record, and then when we sort of tried to work out a play live, it became something even more sort of bigger and madder. And sort of the 15 step was a sort of same sort of thing, really. It's sort of quite an important lesson that we learnt during that period.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, go on. No, I want to interrupt you.
Well, I'm just waffling, really.
Me?
Surely not.
The importance of what I was going to say or ask was about the importance of playing some of these songs live. I mean, obviously you played 15 Step live and tried it out, and Ed does lots of clapping on it.
Do you do that?
I forgot about in the spirit of the thing. Yeah, it's a nice moment, actually.
I bet you don't do that anymore, do you?
No, well, not in the studio. It's only you bastards do.
Yeah, that's true.
Can we look forward to you clapping on this upcoming tour?
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see in the heat of the moment. You never know.
Might go off for a Swiftie and come back.
Yeah.
And Body Snatchers is the next song. Was this road tested as well? Do you think?
This is road tested.
Is that fuzzy guitar? Is that a guitar or a bass?
Yeah, it's guitar. It was Nigel has this really wicked old mixing desk that he managed to get off studio in LA. It's exactly the same model one. If you're interested in this, if you're not, then turn off. No, go on, don't worry. It's a Motown desk. It's from like late 60s. It's the exact model that they used to record all the Motown stuff. And of course, if you turn everything on full, it sounds exactly. Plug your guitar and it sounds like that.
Well, I think it sounds brilliant. I mean, it sounds like Sabotage or something like that by the Beastie Boys in that fuzzy.
In my dreams.
Yeah, well,
you're just saying the right things.
That's how it sounds to me. Is it a film reference at all? Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Near the end, I thought.
Actually, it was a film reference, but not that one. It was. I started the tune out watching the original Stepford Wives, bizarrely, and cutting and pasting bits from that. But I don't think any of it actually got used. But that's where the tune started from. I got a little bit obsessed by Stepford Wives. Watched it 3 or 4 times.
Right. So I guess in a way that's about bodies being possessed.
Yeah, well, there's the bit at the end where, yes, all the women have finally been turned into the robots or whatever. Anyway, but also the song actually, the title actually came from a very strange ghost story, a Victorian ghost story.
Any further elucidation on that?
Just, about digging up bodies, selling them on, and then the bodies come back and get you.
Right, okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah, author?
No, I can't remember. It was an anthology of Victorian ghost stories.
Excellent. And with that in mind, this is Radiohead, Body Snatchers on Exposure, XFM. Radiohead with Nude on Exposure, XFM, getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight as part of In Rainbows. Tom York and Ed O'Brien in the studio here with me.
Butt naked.
Talking us through it. Butt naked, I know. Yeah. It's a pleasant sight. I think it's a good sight. I'm up for it. We always do the shows naked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is that why we're in such a small room?
Yes, it keeps the temperature up. Nude, it dates back a long time.
Yeah.
So,
for all you pop pickers and Radiohead fans will know that it's on the end of Meeting People Is Easy. That's a live version, yeah.
Safely say I haven't seen that since we did it.
Which, from Radio City Music Hall, the last show we did on the OK Computer Tour.
Really?
Yeah. And so...
Did we play it?
Yeah, man. We played it. It. And it's it's one of these songs that that it's great, but had never seen appropriate, and maybe it's partly to do with you singing it.
Yeah, getting back into that. Yeah, that old high thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it's gone through various different versions. This is the one you're happiest with because it's now on the record.
Yeah, we're going to do the remix version
in 10 years' time.
10 years' time.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of a theme emerging here.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So it'll be remixed in 2014.
Sure.
Yeah, excellent. Weird Fishes, Arpeggi is the next track, another song that was road tested and if you search on the internet, I'm always amazed by how much information is about you on the internet, and how much of it is speculation and how much of it is fact. Do you ever look at any of that stuff?
If I'm trying to remember some words, then I do.
Right.
But usually they're slightly wrong.
So
I don't. I like. I tell you what I do like is when we were out on tour. But first time we did All I Need, it was by accident quite a good version of it in Chicago, and like 40 minutes after we came off, it was on YouTube. First time we'd done it, and it's sort of like a bizarre. It's all crunchy, it's off a mobile phone, but just that sort of element of it, I really find incredibly exciting. And I think it's nice that people are interested enough to come up with all these mad ideas. There's something about 10 that comes in up a lot. I don't know what but every time I get asked about it, I say yes, absolutely. We thought of all that.
This is the binary theory.
Is that the binary theory? I think there's a binary one as well.
There's the binary theory, which seems to have something to do with 10 years since OK Computer.
Oh, right.
And then 10, some kind of number pattern within the sequencing of this album. And then there's the golden section theory, is there?
All right.
I like that one.
You like that one?
Because I'm actually really interested in the golden section.
Right. So the golden section is
that film coming out? Come out at Christmas? Oh no,
that's the Golden Compass.
There might be a golden section within the Golden Compass.
Nah.
Maybe that's
the golden section. Right. Yeah.
Maybe we'll go back to the golden section.
Yeah.
I think you should carry on.
The golden section is really interesting because it's basically found in nature. I don't think it's interesting in terms of the record, because this theory apparently says that you get to the heart of the record right in the middle of Reckoner, which that's
very true.
Which is true, but it wasn't deliberately done like that.
Yes,
obviously.
of course it was. It was completely deliberate. What are you talking about?
Sorry, there's a ratio there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is.
And the golden section is like the sweet spot.
Darling.
It's like the Greeks used to. Like Georgian houses and the proportions of their rooms.
No, mate.
They got it right because they borrowed it from the Greeks, and the Greeks had this ratio that was in relation to the Fibonacci sequence. It's a ratio as well. And the Fibonacci sequence is obviously found in nature a lot in the way that things grow. And the golden section is the same as Leonardo's picture of man. The proportions, there's a ratio that's inherent in the golden section of Fibonacci that's that we don't really need to know.
This
is not very relevant to the record.
It's more relevant.
We're getting a bit of art history. I
just want to know what your bookshelves look like now.
Yeah,
I want to know what on earth you spend your time reading. Yeah, God, dear me. That's what an education does to you, man.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Is it?
It is. And this is Radiohead with Weird Fishes. Peggy. You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM. I'm John Kennedy here with you until 1, and that is Radiohead with All I Need from the brand new album In Rainbows, which is out now this week physically, in a physical form. You can touch it, stroke it, do whatever you like to it, maybe even play it. It's getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight, but I probably said that because I've got Thom and Ed here with me. That was All I Need. I'm getting distracted by various different things. I don't know why.
It's because we're talking nonsense mostly.
You were saying, Thom, how you were excited by the fact that within minutes of you performing All I Need for the very first time, it was up on the net for all to check out in a kind of dodgy phone version. It's great the way it kind of builds to the end. What else can you tell us about All I Need?
Well, we actually used that version that someone recorded off the Chicago phone as one of the reference points, bizarrely. What else can I tell you about it? It was originally done. It was a sort of a beat sequence thing that Colin and I did very rapidly and then forgot about, and I found again. It was what else can I tell you? It was actually written extremely quickly. I got to rehearsal one day early, which is very unusual. I had 20 minutes to myself and wrote the words then, and then it was it. That was it, sort of, really. It was it's extremely full on. The bit in the middle is extremely full on.
Is it about obsession? Is it about crowds or anything like that?
Oh, John, that's up to you.
Well, it's all in the personal interpretation.
Yes, I think. Yes. Someone said it was about the music business, which I really think is stretching it possibly a little.
What do you think, Ed?
It's definitely about the music industry, that's for sure.
You're right.
Yeah,
I
they
think
were
so
right,
too.
spot on.
Yeah, Terra Firma.
Faust Up is the next track, and I wanted to ask you about some of the other contributors to the album. We've got some children on 15 Step, I think, and there are strings evident in All I Need, Faust Up, and the track we heard
Nude.
a few minutes ago. Thank you. Who has provided... The strings sound particularly beautiful, I think.
Well, Johnny did the scoring, and it was conducted by a woman called Sally Herbert, and they're not an orchestra or an ensemble as such, but they sort of play together, do the odd session. They call themselves the Millennia String Ensemble.
Well done, Ed.
Yeah, and they're great. They're great. They had a lead violin player, Everton, who was very good, really on the case. And it was a joy. We went back to Rack to do it, where we'd recorded the Bend, Studio 2.
Wow.
And had a couple of days there. Had one day and then another day.
Yeah, we
a few
did,
weeks
yeah.
later,
Yeah.
and it was really good. It was a really lovely day, because also when the strings were put down, we still hadn't completed the songs, and Jigsaw's got strings on it as well. So it kind of, we needed to put the strings on it for these songs at this time, for them to sort of either like Faust Up to be sort of complete, or Jigsaw to embellish and.
It was quite funny because Johnny did loads of sort of I kept saying to him, you need some strings, Johnny. Go, put some strings on. And he's like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
He's got that stage when he can do
stuff.
different styles.
Yeah.
He can't. He doesn't have the one. He's obviously very apt at this.
Yeah.
But it was.
But he was still having to write the score without the finished shape of the songs. Even.
Yeah, and there's some songs like Nude and stuff. It was sort of the when we mixed it, the strings are on one fade, and we just like brought them in for a little bit and bring them out after all that work. Poor chap. Never mind. That's the way it goes.
Doing it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, you have to ask him that.
Faust Up is the next track. What should we know about Faust Up? I know about the strings.
The words were right bastard to write, because the timing on it. It's Johnny's guitar riff, and there was a lot of pages written to try and nail them down. And it was actually with all the songs on the record, that was the one between me and Johnny. The few times we sat down and got it together to finish things or whatever, that was the first thing that came out of getting back together after however 6 months, a year, where we were just going off and doing our own thing. We sat in his garden and literally rolled it straight off. It was really nice. So, and it's
Am I right in thinking this was one of the songs that wasn't played live before you recorded?
Yeah, I still hadn't finished the lyrics up until we were recording it. So,
yeah. And is there any significance in the title, Faust Up? I mean, they could refer to many different things.
They could do, which is good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Bear that in mind as you listen.
As you puzzle over numbers and things.
Exactly. Radiohead, Faust Up, Exposure, XFM. It's Radiohead with Faust Up on Exposure XFM from In Rainbows. Thom Yorke and Ed O'Brien from the band are here talking us through it track by track. The Golden section is on the way. Reckoner is the next song, which is another one that hasn't been played live yet, or is that right?
Yeah, not in that form.
Yeah, not in that form.
Yeah.
I should, while I remember, talking of playing live, and I've got a few questions because I mentioned to Exposure listeners that I was going to be talking to you, and a few came through with some questions that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. One was from Diana, who listens in Brazil and wants to know if you're ever going to go to Brazil.
Funny you should say that.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, we're hoping to go next year for sure.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Another question that somebody came up with was with regard to Glastonbury. Ed, you mentioned Glastonbury earlier on, and listening to a radio reportage of Glastonbury and stuck in a traffic jam.
Yeah.
Is Glastonbury 2008 a possibility for Radiohead?
No.
No.
I can't tell you.
No,
Is that
not
a couldn't possibly
Isn't it?
comment?
Not can't really possibly
Can't
comment.
possibly. No.
No.
So that's not
What
saying
usually
no.
happens is that Mr. Evis announces
Yeah.
we're doing it, and then we
Yeah.
find out afterwards.
Yeah.
But no, he hasn't done that this time, which is probably
Yeah.
Am I digging a hole? I'll show.
I think we should. Yeah.
We don't know. Actually.
We don't know, but probably not.
Probably not. actually.
Don't presume that we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't think that we are.
No.
And the dates that you are doing, have you got supports already?
Not yet.
No.
But there will be supports.
God, we've got to sort that out.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
Yeah. We'll change it around a bit, but
Yeah.
that could be really exciting.
So people will get value for money and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't get blown off stage.
Always a tricky one.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Reckoner is the next song. Another percussive number. I like the percussive numbers. They're some of my favourites. What else can you tell us about Reckoner, apart from the golden section, which comes up midpoint?
Well, what can I say? It was one of the songs that really, truly evolved in the studio. It hadn't been road tested. It was exciting for us. Probably it's one of the most exciting tracks on the record because we didn't really have a vision for it. It just evolves, and I think to hear Thom singing falsetto is really new, and it feels, we weren't trying to do it, but we were just trying to get it out and do it, try and present something with the percussion and do it differently. And looking back, it's got a real sort of gospel-y feel, and I think it's very beautiful.
Really?
Yeah.
Reminds me of early rave 1992. That's just the drum beat thing, I guess. Well, that's early rave, isn't 1992? Get your facts right, boy. Anyway, the funny thing was that to be honest, like the guitar on it was really influenced by went to see the Chili Peppers a few times, and I really like the way John Frusciante plays, and it was sort of a homage to that in my sort of clunky, can't really pick kind of way.
Okay, and this is it. Radiohead, Reckoner. Radiohead with Reckoner on Exposure XFM, part of In Rainbows, getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight. Did you enjoy the golden section? I hope so.
Did you come? Sorry.
What was I going to say? Oh, critically, Ed, you were talking about Thom's falsetto in that track.
Yeah.
And I've read somewhere, at least one critic thought that's the pinnacle of the whole album.
Yeah, I can totally see that, absolutely.
And the whole critical reaction to this album has been really strong in favour.
Yeah.
Do you pay any attention to critical reaction?
Well, personally, you're talking probably to the two people in the band who, I don't read reviews. Thom, I know you don't read reviews, and so stopped reading reviews a long time ago. But having said that, friends have texted me on on the mobile and stuff, and said they've been obsessing about the record. So, I feel that there's a good feeling about the record.
Yeah, so for that kind of personal reaction, is kind of worth more.
It's great. Friends that your good friends will you can see it on their faces. You play it to them, and you get a different reaction, and they come out with some,
Do you play it to people when you're in the room?
No. I can't do that. I can't do that. Right. No, that gives me the horrors. But friends will, having played it or whatever, you can tell when their response rather is different. It's
I've got a mate who's a brain surgeon called Simon. Hello, Simon. And he likes it, and he plays it when he's operating on brains.
No way.
And he says it's the best one we've done. So
does it? And
he's clever.
Wow. Does that help him concentrate? Is that why he would play?
Well, normally he plays Aphex Twin, so I should imagine his patients are fairly grateful.
Luckily, they're out for the count.
Yeah. Actually, no. Sometimes they're not.
Really?
No.
You can operate.
Top of the head unscrewed, but they're still talking to them. Yeah. Well, sometimes you need to know that, like, in case you hit the wrong bit.
Wow.
Wow.
Sorry, we're getting off the point a little.
God, amazing.
Yeah. Well done, Simon.
Yeah, very impressive. House of Cards is the next track. A question that can relate to quite a lot of the songs. Are they more personal, lyrically, venture for you, Tom? I mean, are they personal things that you're... I mean, let's say...
It was very much psychic dumping, where I was deliberately trying to, as much as I possibly could, except for I'll stop, to write quickly and not think about what sense could be made of it or not. So, in that sense, one of the things I've been most wary of talking about the record at all is actually taking any responsibility for the lyrics or having to comment on them, because it was I kind of don't feel answerable to them in a way that sometimes with lyrics that I've done where I've sort of pieced them together in a sort of much more constructed way, and you sort of feel like there's a point to explaining how you've done it. And I kind of, to me, of all the records we've done, this is the one I feel I can least explain any of it.
Oh, that's interesting, because I was listening to it the other day and thinking that there's a kind of dreamlike quality to the album as a whole, in a way. If you listen to the whole thing, say if you're driving along and it's just kind of there around you, and it's almost as if the band are kind of lost in the music as you play together, and there are points when the singing seems as if it could be a shaman or a shaman kind of dancing as part of some kind of ritual or something like that, getting lost in the music.
Well, I think that one of the reasons it took so long, and yes, I would love to be a shaman, one of the...
Maybe you are. And
yeah,
you don't
maybe I am. I don't think I'd do enough drugs for that. One of the things that was really important, one of the reasons it took so long, was to get the pulse right on each tune. House of Cards being, I suppose, the most obvious example, where you kind of lose yourself in the pulse, and then the vocals can come in, sort of thing, which is much which is much more a dance music thing and much less a rock music thing, although you could argue the Stones do it, and sometimes it happens. So I would agree to some extent that there's this thing about being lost in stuff. I mean, Reckon is absolutely that. I think that's one of the things Nigel's really, really good at, is finding the bits when we play that when we are lost in stuff. And it's not necessarily the bits where we're enjoying it. It's usually just before that. Because by the time we're enjoying it, we're thinking, hey, we're good. And to that exact point is when it gets crap.
Excellent. This is House of Cards, Radiohead on Exposure, XFM. You're listening to Exposure. It is XFM. I'm John Kennedy, and that is Radiohead with Jigsaw Falling Into Place, the 9th track from the album In Rainbows, physically released right now in the shops as I speak, and getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight with Ed O'Brien and Thom Yorke from the band talking us through it track by track. Jigsaw is also the first single from the album. Having released it in the digital way, and obviously you said that you were always going to release it in a physical form at some point, and that was always part of the plan. Singles and all that kind of thing, are they still part of the picture or the way that you see yourselves releasing music?
Well, I guess, a single is a song that gets played on the radio. So yeah, we want to get our songs played on the radio. So if that's the means you have to do, then absolutely, Yeah. It'll probably shift, I think, in the years to come. They'll become key tracks.
Yeah,
what was interesting is, of course, when the record came out, there were no singles picked out, and different radio stations picked whatever tracks they wanted, and that was interesting.
But then they all come back to you again, can you tell us what it is now, because we don't want to make a mistake? Why can't you just carry on playing the one you like?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Jigsaw almost has is it a reference to Paranoid Android with that guitar line at the beginning? It kind of reminds me of Paranoid Android. It almost seemed as if you could have chuck it in there just as a nod to your past.
Really? I think it's more that I only have about 3 ideas.
Oh, come on. I like this. One of the things to me on this record was always, I kept on sort of saying, was the lyrics. And one of the things I love about this whole song is that, if I may...
Please do.
It's the Friday night in the pub, and it's all kicking off, and there used to be a line in there that wasn't there but that sentiment, you've just been paid. And you know, and it's all going off, and I love that kind of, it's kind of, to me, it's totally, you know, for me, when we get our songs right, it's very visual. And I totally imagine a kind of like quite a thin bar, and it's all kicking off, and people are looking at one another, and it's all in the music, and and more drinks, and that euphoria at the end of the week. And you get to that, you get to the last section, and it's all building up, and it's just that glorious feeling, you know, 11 o'clock, and before it all goes nasty, and you're kind of like, you've got enough booze inside you, and it's all, and the world doesn't get better than this in this very moment, and that's what I love about this song.
Half an hour from now, it's all going to go.
Yeah, exactly. Once you've had that first kebab.
Or you wake up in the morning and you don't know what her name is.
So that moment is when the jigsaw falls into place, just before it all goes wrong.
Yeah.
Like it. Videotape is the next track, and when you were sequencing the album, did you always think this is the best way to end the record?
Well, no. Nigel and I, for ages, thought it should be the first track until Chris, our manager, pointed out, you know, having come in from the outside and we'd been locked in the studio for a while, you must be bloody kidding. No, you know, they'll just play that and say forget it because it's pretty dark. But I think that was only just because it was the thing at that particular moment that we were most proud of, you know.
So usually then that's the one that you want to share first and say, hey, look what we've done.
Not necessarily. I think no, not necessarily. I think it's like every song has its place, and if I was of a morning and was going, well, I don't play the songs to stuff, but if I were to, and it depends, if I come back from the pub and maybe 1 o'clock in the morning we'd all sat and had a smoke, and that would probably be a good one to start with, but it might not be a good one at 10 o'clock in the morning, you know what I mean? It's like, I think I like that thing someone said once about every song has its hour of the day almost.
That's true.
So it seems it's a. I think the reason that Nigel, I remember Nigel said he wanted it to be at the start of the record because it's just literally Thom's voice. You've got the piano, but you've just got his voice, and we haven't done that for a while. You know, I think that was what was cool for the rest of us when we heard the Eraser issue. It's like, oh, his vocals are loud, like that. You know,
what does he do with us?
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, exactly. Why does he want to bury it in all our noise? You know, and that's
giving you space, chaps.
That's right. That's right. Hiding? No. So I think that it's great for that because it's really the voices up front, and you know, it's such a great lyric.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to end the album, great way to start the album, and of course people can shuffle it around if they want to.
If they must.
Listening to the whole of In Rainbows, something Phil has got in touch with the programme and wanted to know that in the past at some point, Thom, you had said that How to Disappear you reckon was probably the best thing that Radiohead had ever done. Is there anything on In Rainbows that you think you've kind of, as a band, have reached that pinnacle again?
Me personally, it would be Videotape, because it was one of those songs where it was absolutely sort of, we just didn't know how on earth we were going to do it, and you know, and to end up with this really stripped down thing where you're hearing all this extra stuff which maybe there, maybe not, and you know, it's just it exists on a different sort of weird. There's something else going on which you can't hear it, but it's going on, and it transforms you. Hopefully, that's the idea. And How to Disappear was a similar thing. There's a point in that where it's like, you know, do you know the author Murakami?
No.
Japanese American author. And in his books, they always have these. Well, it's a constant theme of like having holes in walls that you go through, and then you're in a sort of parallel. You break through to the other side, sort of thing. And I think that's the aim of records for us making music. Is every now and again you get those bits where you break through to the other side.
And will that keep you going? I mean, you mentioned a remix in 10 years' time, 2014, of Nude, was it? And I mean, But there was a point when you released a series of albums quite quickly in a row. Do you think you'll ever return to that?
Hopefully, yeah. That's the idea. We've got to kind of change the model that's been floating around the last few years, and we'll do it quicker. And now we've got the means to do it as well. So
yeah,
I think this is a very specific method of working as well, that we deliberately didn't. We kept with what we knew in a sort of weird sort of way, and concentrated on just getting the songs right. But the next time it's much more concentrating on what we don't know. You know what I mean? Trying some different gear, different methods.
Yeah.
Next.
Excellent.
Immediately now.
Thom, Ed, thanks so much for coming in. It's great to see you. And this is the last track tonight from Radiohead, Videotape.